Someone keeps taking them out.
I asked the same thing.
I'm gonna have to have
One time I didn't bring it.
I'm just gonna keep it. He doesn't know. Do you want to?
No, thank you.
I do have it now.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the joint hearing of the Public Works and Finance Committee this evening. The topic before us will be a presentation by, I'm assuming, the Commissioner of Public Works, who will be talking about infiltration and inflow. Before we get into his presentation, I'd just like to take a moment here and read the open meeting law. This is from Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20E. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. And with that, I would invite if the clerk of the works would call the roll for the works.
Councilor Kane.
Present.
Councilor DeBona.
Present.
Councilor Finn.
Present.
Councilor Hughes. Councilor LaForest. Councilor Liang.
Present.
Councilor Palmucci. Chairman Kroll.
Present. We do have a quorum at this time. Commissioner Raimondi, I know that you have a slide deck. I have provided hard copies to those councilors in attendance, along with some historical perspective that would outline some of the public work that has been done relative to this. We do have a hard stop at 7:30. The floor is yours, Mr. Commissioner.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Kroll, Chairman Finn, members of the Public Works and Finance Committees, thank you so much for providing the department with this opportunity to talk a little bit about the department and, more importantly, focus on the appropriation order that is before you. As you know, your Department of Public Works consists of traffic operations, engineering division, waste management, highway operations, parking operations, water sewer drain, which also includes billing. Tonight, the focus is on the topic of sewer, something I'm sure keeps all of you awake at night wondering about sewer. I'm joined by Gabriel Hall, who is our legal counsel and master of all things sewer, as well as city engineer Sean Hardy. Throughout this presentation, you will see elements of the three ingredients that Chairman Kroll provided you with, and also that's up on the screen. First and foremost, best management practices. Second, protection of the environment. And thirdly, the stabilization of our sewer bills. In 2008, when Mayor Koch took office, one of the first things he did was to commission a comprehensive audit of water sewer operations. Now, that study quickly focused on the following topics: collections and billing accuracy, estimated readings, investments in our water sewer infrastructure, and preventative maintenance. I know that most of your colleagues, Mr. Chairman, were not on the council back in 2008, but I know that Councilor Finn was. And back in those days, if you recall, there was controversy about inaccurate reads, estimated readings, fluctuations in bills from excessively high to estimated reads. It really was a matter that the Mayor Cope wanted to focus on to determine how the city could do a better job in billing operations as well as sewer management. So what did the audit find? Well, the audit found that the sewer budget was $2 million in deficit in fiscal year 2008 alone. What that meant is that the taxpayers were subsidizing sewer operations, exactly what the enterprise account was designed to prevent. In addition to that, they found that there was a revenue loss of $3.3 million. Never to recapture that money again, one fiscal cycle, $3.3 million loss. Undocumented abatement procedures, meter reads again were inaccurate and inconsistent. Understaffed billing office. We have approximately 25,000 customers. I believe at the time in 2008, 2007, there was probably 2 individuals in the water sewer billing office. Understaffing was a significant issue that led to some of the issues that the study found. Minimum proactive preventive maintenance or capital infrastructure investment. No management reports or controls. No historic trending of performance. Now, what does that mean? It really means that the water sewer enterprise account is a business, much like the business that you folks may work for. When our taxpayers subsidize, we rely upon the budget that we have, the rates that are set, and the performance of our budget. So you need to have historical data to see any trends and how they are. So what was the collections last July, last September? What are the collections this July, this September? None of those reports were in existence in 2007 and obviously the need to stabilize sewer costs. The audit recommended a number of things that the department should do. These are some of them. First, recalibrate the 5 major mass water sewer meters. Those are the meters that dictate pretty much how much we spend on sewer. Secondly, initiate a citywide infiltration and inflow study, a comprehensive study, and that's one of the reasons why we continue to be back in front of you this evening. Review billing data on large accounts. Obviously, the larger the accounts, the more there may be issues of discrepancies, so we focused on that. Increase collection efforts. Establish a professional and equitable abatement process consistent with state law. Establish a public rate setting procedure, and install an AMR meter reading system. What was the department's response? First of all, Mass Water recalibrated its 5 sewer flow meters. Secondly, we increased our collection efforts. As you know, I know as Council Finn knows and others who are perhaps were home when one of our employees or one of our contractors knocked on your door asking to change over your meter. We changed over 23,000 meters and replaced them with new meters, and we also had data collection devices and recording devices. We replaced 23,000 meters for a cost of in excess of $10 million. We standardized the procedures whereby unpaid water bills are remitted as taxes annually and leaned on the property. So the old days, if you didn't pay your bill, it didn't matter. We had an underfunded deficit of $3.3 million. If you don't pay your water bill now, thanks to the vote or the initiative of the mayor and the support of this council, our new ordinance mandates that bill becomes a lien on the real property, and 100% is collected by the department. So instead of going from an 85% collection rate with a $3.3 million deficit in 2008, we currently have a 100% collection rate of our targeted revenues. We established a public rate setting procedure. As you know, every July, we set the rate and we publish it in the local media. We have established a professional and equitable abatement process consistent with state law. I have the policy here, and I have the water sewer abatement application here. We also initiated a sanitary sewer evaluation survey. But in addition to that, I just wanted to show you a couple of things that any private entity should do, and we are attempting to run sewer and water. First of all, this is the revenue report that has the historical perspective, and we review this report often, and it has the monthly estimate what we think that we should have received, what we got, the abatements, and we target this, we have a historical perspective. At least once a month, we do what we call an appropriation report or a budget report. We track the budget and every single penny that was spent off of that budget, we track that. And we also have a charge report. As you know, as part of the ordinance that you folks voted for a few years ago, we assess charges for those folks who would use our system, and we have that report. So before you voted for that, we might have received income from charges around $25,000 to $30,000. We are now receiving about $700,000 to $1 million in charges. Again, the people who use our system or abuse the system pay for that, and the folks who play by the rules no longer have to be burdened by those charges. So we talked about a comprehensive infiltration and inflow study. The chairman mentioned a bit as to what this meeting is all about. Basically, infiltration is seawater, rainwater, groundwater, leaking into the sewer system through defects in the infrastructure. Inflow is water that enters the system via sump pumps, drains, or storm drains. Drinking water use, and roughly we take in from Mass Water. Mass Water charges us on 9.2 or 9.5 million gallons per day of drinking water. So a perfect system would be that every drop of that water winds up in our wastewater collection system. 9.2 million gallons a day coming in, we're being charged for wastewater treatment of 9.2 gallons. That makes sense. In a system like that, there are none on Earth. But if you had a system like that, you wouldn't have any infiltration or inflow because your system is so encased that only drinking water and sewage wind up in your system. We are charged, the reason why this meeting is so important, and the reason why your support in the past has been so critical, and why it's so critical moving forward, is that every ratepayer in the city of Quincy is charged for that flow. We're charged for the water coming in, and we're charged for the volume of the sewage that it flows through our system, goes through those mass water meters, and we're charged for that volume. In addition to the high cost of I&I, I&I is a primary reason for sewer repairs, and it causes serious operational challenges. The commonly referred to sewer backups probably mostly occurs either in tidal areas or following rainstorms where we have significant infiltration into our system. It overloads our pump stations and overloads our treatment facilities. So in addition to the actual cost, there are other operational problems with I&I. Going back to 2009 and moving forward to 2015. The next slide indicates graphically how important the vote is tonight. So in 2009, we took in from Mass Water about 9.2 million gallons per day. In 2015, pretty much the same, 9.3. However, in 2009, our wastewater flow was 14.7 million gallons per day. Now that's not peak, that's the average. So 9.2 coming in, 14.7 going out. Obviously the difference between the wastewater flow and drinking water coming in is 5.5 million gallons per day. That's I&I. And we're paying to treat salt water. We're paying to treat water and capacity that does not belong in our wastewater system. With the program that we've designed already Phase 2B, which has a number of improvements in Ward 1 area, parts of Ward 4, and across the city. We believe that the estimates of save the ratepayer is in excess of $800,000 per year by taking this volume out of our system. So in 2009, our INI was about 37% by this calculation. In 2015, it's a little shy of 31%. So again, we anticipate with the new program removing close to 1.4 or 2 million gallons a day out of our system. Now, how do we reduce INI? That's really why we're here. First of all, we conduct studies to determine where the most cost-effective plan of attack should be. Where's the best focus? Where's the biggest bang for the buck? Where do we spend the money to achieve the greatest goal? And then we fix those areas. Funding is from three sources. Mass Water Resources Authority, stabilization within the sewer department, and the sewer rehabilitation fund, that is a city fund that contractors and builders across the city pay into, and that money can be used to improve our sewer system. As you know, we're a coastal community. We have about 200 miles of sewer pipe. About 10% of those pipes, 20 miles, lie in tidal areas that are underwater maybe 6 to 8 hours a day. So obviously those are the areas that we focused on initially. If you have a manhole that is underwater 8 hours a day, if that manhole has leaks in it or holes in it, obviously that salt water, that seawater is just rushing into that manhole, and we're paying for that. So not only the fact that we're in a coastal community, many portions of our system are over 100 years of age. So due to the age, the condition, and location of the pipe, the cost-benefit analysis brings us more to the coast, especially in the beginning. So this is an idea from Black Creek to Camden Marsh, Hartford, Post Island Road, Swanham, Town River, engineering. The initial phase was $1.8 million, as you can see. The cost of the city was $1.2 million. At the time you folks voted for this appropriation, the split between grant and cost was 55% cost to the city, 45% grant from Mass Water Resources Authority. Not a bad deal. We're doing good work, best management practice, protecting the environment, reducing our sewer costs, and pretty much we only had to pay roughly 55 cents on the dollar. That was phase one. It was strictly followed by two additional phases, 2A and 2B. 2A was approximately $800,000, 2B about $2.2 million, and we achieved a tremendous amount of rehabilitation of many manholes across the city. The next slide I want to show you is Lynn Street, which is in the Germantown section of our city. These manholes are underwater 8 hours a day. I have, in my hand, I have a quarter. See how small this quarter is? This quarter, a quarter-sized hole, will allow 1.7 million gallons a year of INI to the natural manhole. So these manholes are underwater 8 hours a day. That's 17 million gallons per year. If every manhole had cracks or a hole about the size of this tiny hole. That's the significance and importance of the work that you folks have done. So the cost benefit to phase one, cost of the city $1.2 million, cost to resolve the problems $1.8 million, about $800,000 was the Mass Water grant, city funds in excess of $1 million. The payback, we figured at 18 months, but the real payback was a lot sooner than that because of the INI that we moved from the system. The authorization before you is a different funding mechanism. At $6.9 million we're asking you to appropriate. It's now a different concept. Mass Water will give us a grant of 75% of that 6.9 million. You only have to pay back roughly 1.7 million. So before, for $1 million, we got $1.8 million worth of work. By this vote, for $1.7 million, we're getting almost $7 million worth of work. And we're removing more I&I from our system. In addition to direct I&I projects, we have done other work across the city that has resulted in the improvement of our sewer system and, in a sense, the solidification of our piping system, and therefore has I&I benefits. Stoughton Street, Narrow Road to Old Post Road, emergency sewer repair to a manhole on Crabtree Road, leaky sewer manholes and structures on Lansdowne Street at the marsh end of Essex. We did some repair work on East Walnut Street Marsh between Quincy Shore Drive and East Street. The emergency repair on Park Avenue, emergency sewer replacement on Lansdowne. Monson Street, we replaced 580 feet of sewer. Dysart Street, we replaced 260 feet of sewer. And Rice Road, as you know, we completely did the sewer main on Rice Road. The next slide shows you the results of some of this work. So when we add in not the project that's before you, but the project that you folks already voted on, we believe that we will have removed about 2 million gallons per day of I&I from our system. And you see that red line? That's going in the right direction. That shows that our needed sewer flow is less today than what it was in 2009. And that's what it's all about. I also want to talk a little bit about water and sewer rate history. We don't have a chart for this, but we've talked about a lot of major investments, and across the country and even across the Commonwealth here, various reports about lack of infrastructure investments. Government needs to do more, line hardly. So all the work that I just explained, all the money, millions of dollars that you folks have voted for, and I'm going to continue to talk more about it. The Quincy Point Pump Station, almost $4 million. The Fort Square Pump Station, almost $4 million. New meters, $10 million. All of this work. And you're probably thinking, oh my God, how are the ratepayers going to suffer the consequences of these increases? Because of the work that we've been doing, as explained. From 2003 to 2008, so this is before Mayor Koch took office. In 2003, the sewer rate was $5.66. In 2008, it was $8.79. 9.1% increase in sewer. In the 8 years of Mayor Koch, starting in fiscal 2009, the rate was 9.84. 2016, the rate was 12.98. Increase, 32%, average increase, 4%. The prior years, average increase, 55%. The increase was 55%, average increase 9.1. So we've cut the increase in half, and we are doing a tremendous amount of infrastructure on the sewer side. So the next slide shows you the 2 significant major investments that you folks have voted for, and we thank you very, very much. Fort Square, $3.4 million. That's the sewer pump station that services a good part of southwest Quincy and downtown Quincy. You can imagine the catastrophic situation if we had an event at this station. Because of the removal of I&I, we didn't have to build a bigger pump station at Fort Square. We could rehabilitate the existing size station because we're removing a lot of this capacity from our system. Cost of that project, $3.4 million. Quincy Point, same thing. So we've avoided major catastrophes by upgrading our system. And that was done with a different funding source. That was SRF funding. That's a 2% loan over a 20-year period. So you can see, we're just not using taxpayer money or ratepayer money solely to provide for this work. We've gone out for mass water funding, SRF funding, and all of that. The next slide, you folks would have voted for this a number of months ago. This is the work that is beginning this spring, this summer. that will be completed hopefully this year from Willow Street, Dell Road, Curtis Street, Utica, Bright Meadows Marsh, Black Street, Fernsbrook Parkway, C Street, Parkhurst. Again, in combination with what we've already done, and with this work completed, our estimates are we would have removed 2 million gallons per day of iodine. Now, moving forward into the 21st century, we have SCADA devices in our pump stations and other facilities so that we're able to monitor electronically the condition of our stations. Regulatory efforts, the reduction of a ratepayer's bill is a combination of iodine removal, best management practices, but also you folks a couple of years ago voted to charge the high-strength user charge, to charge that to the business that created the problem. And since you did that, about $1.1 million has been taken off of the city budget and paid for by this one business entity within the city of Quincy. Prior to that, your mothers and fathers and all folks in the city would have paid for that charge. But one company, and this is a mass water charge, it's not something that the city does, but one company generates that charge. Before you voted for that ordinance change, the ratepayers would pay a portion of that charge. Now, that charge is not being borne by the people of Quincy. We have a private infrastructure initiative. We don't own a lot of the private, if it's private infrastructure, obviously we don't own it. Parts of the city, Meridian Bay, for example, they own their infrastructure, but what happens there is still an impact on the city. And so we're trying to work with other resources, the planning board, the council as a permit granting authority, or the zoning board, that if a major development is coming into the city, they have an obligation through their project to remove some iodine from their system as well. And this past year, the efforts bore fruit. The 600 hour in Crown Colony was ordered to remove 288,000 gallons of iodine as a result of that system. So the efforts to remove iodine access in the next 2 phases, and that's why that council orders before you this evening. Continuous citywide study as we move away from the coast and inland, where it may not be as cost-benefit analysis as the coastline. It's still very important work that we need to continue. Target further projects to remove the most cost-efficient sources. Work with plenty officials, I already talked about that, to have some of these major developments pay for iodine removal. And keep in mind that the best way to reduce and stabilize sewer costs is to continue this iodine program. That concludes the presentation, Mr. Chairman. Anybody has any questions? I hope I didn't take too much time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner. We appreciate your diligence and your hard work. You've always been an advocate, both as a city council and as commissioner, and you take pride in your work. So appreciate that. Before I open it up to the councilors at whole, I'd like to at least offer my joint on this particular hearing. Council Finn, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that, again, the whole question specifically of water and sewer rates, again, we've come a long way, quite honestly, in terms of rationalizing that system. And I do have a few questions later on, but I'll reserve those specifically for later. I do want to note that it is timely, and I hope, given what's happening around the country in relation to infrastructure as it applies specifically to water and sewer, that makes these issues very important moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, I guess I'll start. Just in terms of the 6.9 million, I understand how the breakout is. We're in a position to essentially secure 75% reimbursement by the MWRA. Contingent on a vote by this body this evening, how does that process flow work? Do we actually seed an account and then wait for reimbursement? That's 75% from the MWRA?
The auditor could probably help us more, but there could be a lag time between the vote and the actual initiation of the loan order. But the steps would be that once the money has been appropriated, a study for the next phase of where the best cost analysis is for the removal and what we seek to gain from that. And then that amount, Mass Water would provide us with the grant and we begin to pay the money back. I think on Fort Square, you folks voted for that last year, and I think that just went online, will go online in 2017. And I believe the Quincy pump station, although they're rehabilitating it as we speak, I believe that won't be online until 2018, but that perhaps correct me if I'm wrong. The chart that I want to show you is to get to your question. I did a Quincy Sewer Enterprise debt service by fiscal year. And as you can see, from 2010, it's pretty much a steady line as debt is retired. So the green is Fort Square, Quincy Point is online, and the 6.9 million that is before you is blue. So as you can see, in 2018, it peaks just a bit, but it's still just a slight above the 2012 number. So our goal as a department is to look at that 2012 line as the line that we ought to continue to have capital investments into our sewer system. And that 2018, 19, 20, that's pretty consistent, and then it drops off in 2021, 2022. If there is another I&I program similar to the one that Mass Water is doing now, then we may move that up a bit to take advantage of that. But clearly, there was no spike in this debt service, and there was no drop in escalating back and forth, back and forth. The effort has been to have consistent improvement, sustainable investment in our capital infrastructure.
In that particular slide, I do not believe was in the presentation package.
No,
Just as a point of reference.
that's correct.
So, councilors, if you want to take a look at the slide, it's up there on the big screen. In terms of the term, right, so you anticipate this to be an 18-month payback, right?
Well, again,
In terms of the city's portion?
yeah, at the very latest, I mean, it's because of the amount of grant, we're only spending 1.7 million, so maybe a little bit more than that, depending upon where the study takes us. Again, we don't know the areas yet, and we'll have a better determination. What you had before you was the maximum amount, I believe, that we can access from Mass Water. So that's what we're seeking, and this will enable us to have a comprehensive program over the next 2 or 3 cycles to study the program, develop it, do the cost-benefit analysis, and come up with a plan that provides us with the best opportunity with the limited resources that we have to produce the great results, which is to remove the most I&I from our system.
So on the city's portion of the debt that we'll be responsible for, it says 0% loan, that's effective for.
Oh, well, there's a grant, and then there's a payback, so we're responsible for that $1.7 million payback.
Right, with 0 interest.
That's right.
Until we basically pay it back, right?
Yeah, I believe it's a chain of payback.
Council King?
Yeah, just have a couple of questions. So just to be clear, you said that the money's appropriated, so that almost $7 million number is just appropriated based on your anticipation of needs, but then you're going to do a study. What's the anticipated cost of the study? And that's included in this $7 million figure?
Yes, in other words, the $6.9 million that is before you, that will include engineering studies, and I believe that's roughly 10 to 15%. That's kind of the average, so around $750,000 for the engineering. The rest would be construction.
Okay. And actually, just looking at this chart that you present us as the debt service, does the DPW have a debt service cap?
No.
No, okay.
But keep in mind, what this is telling you is that our revenue side of sewer is 27 million or so. So is that the revenue on the sewer side?
Yeah, probably about 27.
So the revenue side is about 27 million. The debt service is, well, this thing on this year, by this chart, is roughly under 2.
Well, yeah, 1.75.
So what business has a debt that's under 10%?
Yeah, lower.
Right, so that's number one. And its debt back is to improve your overall expenditure, because every drop of iodine that comes out of our pipe, we don't have to pay mass water to treat it. And we can't negate the element of the environment. That's why number 2 on the first slide. It is unconscionable that we're treating ocean water. And it's not something we ought to be proud of. So not only is it so cost effective and important, it reduces our rates, but for the protection of the environment, we need to shore up our infrastructure so that we're not causing further damage, and we should not be treating salt water.
No, but it makes perfect sense. I just wanted to understand if there are any further anticipated large capital projects that are planned in the future that would tackle.
It may be, but again, as you can see from the past, here's a chart for 12 years. Our wish list is extensive. There are other pump stations we have to do, Division Street in your community, we need to do some work on. But we're trying to, whether through this process, SRF funding, mass water recapture, maybe some budgetary items within the water sewer enterprise account, but to keep it consistent, keep it sustainable, so that we're not spiking, we're not having high sewer bills one year, down the next year, up and down. Our rates have been pretty steady, pretty stable, and our debt management is a goal that we strive for each and every day. I know that Councilor Yang went to one of our water sewer drain meetings last month, and she can tell you that we have about a 7 or an 8-page agenda, and it's designed to talk about all of these issues. We talk about the infrastructure improvements, the sustainability of our approach, our operational deficiencies, how we can make it better, and then we come before you folks when we have a determination that it's in the best interest of our system as well as the best interest of the ratepayers, come before you and ask for this appropriation. So I guess the answer is that yes, there are a number of major projects, both on the sewer side as well as the water side. And we will manage those according to the debt structure that we believe the ratepayers can afford.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Council Finn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, actually, Councilor Kane actually asked one of the questions I wanted to answer, but I guess in terms of the engineer or the study that's going to move forward with this, he began by talking about the imbalance between what we purchase incoming, so to speak, and what we pay for outgoing. Do you think at some point, again, will these resources that are put forward now be able to put you into a position to kind of be able to project, for lack of a better term, what the true deficit, so to speak, is, to where what it would take to get us, for lack of a better term, almost to a functional zero? In other words, where we know that those
All
are...
the I-9?
Yeah.
You got 200 miles of sewer, 100-year-old portions of pipe that are 100 years old, underwater with 10%. This is mainly manholes. Most of those structures allow a person down and maintain and fix a water main. You got 200 miles of pipe that have cracks, leaks, some have cracked, collapsed. You are talking a significant amount of money to have a perfect cellophane wrapped sewer system.
Well, I don't think
That's the goal. That's the goal, Mr. Chairman. And we're taking these steps with the resources we have, utilizing the grant opportunity to get as much work done as we can, and have the biggest bang for the buck in terms of removing I&I. But yeah, it's a big problem. But
Do you have any sense of what the extent of that problem is, though? Because the question always comes up in my own mind with some of this is that, are we hitting those things that are having the greatest impact? And if we are, then how are we making those determinations?
Well, let's put it this way. There are roughly 50 communities within the Mass Water District. If no one else is doing this I&I removal, then our numbers would be more dramatic. Because you build on your flow sheet. So in many ways, we need to keep doing what we're doing to keep up with those communities that are doing as much or more. Because once we fall back and our flow share is higher, because they're removing their I&I, we're not, therefore our flow share is greater than those communities that are taking advantage of these programs. And now, by doing nothing, we're actually costing our ratepayers more. So by taking advantage of this Mass Water Grant Program, fixing the problems, not only are we doing better for the environment, and it's mandated pretty much by best management practices anyhow, but we're also, there are 3 or 4 cost-effective ways to stabilize rates. One is to have a better billing system. Pretty much we've done that. People that bill for what they use. Secondly,
By the way, I'm very proud and happy that I was part of that with you
Yes.
many years ago when we were.
remember those days, that's the
Yeah.
roller coasters. So that, I can probably count on my 2 hands the amount of calls that collectively you folks got during the campaign last year. Probably less than 5, if even that. We spent a lot of time accurately billing. We have a meter system. It's automated, data-driven. We have an abatement procedure. Deirdre does a great job of managing those types of things. So we don't get those constant phone calls where people are just outraged that the bill went from $500 to $1,500 in a quarter, and then back down to $200, and back up to $1,800 again. So that's eliminated. We're charging folks who abuse our system. If you damage a meter, you're going to get fined for it. If you have a direct installation into a sewer system, you're going to get fined for it. So we've incorporated those aspects. The high-straight sewer charge, which was something that was embedded into our budget, that's now off budget. The last 3 cycles, $1.1 million has not been paid by ratepayers. It has been paid by one corporation. And then I&I is a significant part of that. So it's a combination of budgeting properly, billing properly, 100% of revenue that's targeted receiving, no loss of revenue that we had in the past. The lien has been instrumental in making sure that if you don't pay your water bill, it's going to be a lien on the real property. Some folks prefer to have the lien on the real property because it's tax deductible, and that's fine. But in the old days, they wouldn't have to pay it. Now they have to put this lien on the property. So it's a combination of all those, but having said that, I think the most significant program that we can have to stabilize sewer rates is this I&I reduction program. Because it works, and it's the most consistent thing that we can do.
I accept that. I guess what I'm trying to get at is there any way of picturing, again, as you said, there's no such thing, there never will be a perfect system. But clearly, we have an antiquated system for the most part. And so I guess the question that's really interesting to me is there a sense, if we build this out, we're talking how many years to get to that point where you're now in the future dealing with emergencies and things that show up as problems in your system? And why anybody thinks that might cost to get to that point?
Well, a couple of things. We're taking advantage of the Mass Water program that's here now. If they stop this program, you'd have to take another hard look, because now it's dollar for dollar. If the project costs $7 million, it's going to cost our ratepayers $7 million. So clearly there's an advantage of the 75-25 that's almost critical in our practice, not to take advantage.
Oh, no, I believe me, that's not.
So the question is, I understand. So if that program ends, then we have to take another hard look at what we do. The other thing is, the estimates are that maybe 50% of our I&I issues are on private mains. So our ability to go into those systems and force them to cure correct. So that's an issue that we've started. We mailed letters to private means to see their as-built and see their infrastructure, how they maintain it, do they TV their lines, trying to get at their maintenance operation as well as capital investment, what they do to remove I&I from this system as well, because we're charged for that I&I. So if we had 100% cellophane wrap system on the city side, but half the city is privately owned as far as infrastructure, both laterals from a house to the main, that's privately owned. So if you had big holes in your lateral, or if a private main in a section of the city that's privately owned, if they had big holes in their manholes or their system, we're paying for that.
Right, but right now, we really aren't in a position necessarily to be able to estimate that apparently. At this
Well,
point.
we're efforting in that area.
Right.
Yeah, but so we need to do more to clean up our area, and that'll give us more
I
control.
think you'd be willing as commissioner, obviously, as this study moves forward, because obviously I think it's critical to support efforts like this to improve infrastructure. But as that study moves forward and decisions are being made as to where that work, and what the rationale is, you could come back before Public Works
Oh,
to
sure.
lay that out for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Commissioner.
you.
Anyone else? Well, we appreciate the presentation here this evening, Commissioner Raimondi, and I agree with you. It's definitely work that has to be done. I can appreciate the fact that we're in a situation where we're trying to create financial leverage for the ratepayers from a water perspective and keep those water bills, sewer bills as level as possible. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to make a motion to positively refer this to finance, and then we can revisit it at the meeting. Second by Council Hughes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thanks again, Commissioner.
I just want if we have just a minute, I handed out the info letter, the newsletter. The constituents will be getting this over the next week, and it has Mr. Walker wrote this Flint, Michigan article, which is a great work of art here. This is a topic that most of your constituents may be asking you about. What happened in Flint, can it happen here? I think this explains very well a story that if you take the time to review it. If you have any questions, give us a call.
Thank you.
That's very good. We know who's asking that, but it's a good thought.
Declare this hearing closed.
Thank you. That's a very nice question. That's a good thought. Nobody's asking, but it's a good thought. Huh? Did you do that? No. Oh. God. Sorry, it's not usually my thing. What?